For this assignment, I chose neuromyth number 1 from the resource that we were given. Some of us are left-brained and some of us are right-brained, and this helps explain the differences in how we learn. I chose this neuromyth in particular because it's the one that I personally would have believed the most. So this is essentially debunking the myth for myself, so I can pass this information on to my students. The right side of the brain is known as the creative side, the visuospatial, which helps with things like depth perception. The emotional side of the brain, it is involved in creative over inductive thinking processes. It's intuitive or based on instinct. The left brain, on the other hand, is more the logical side. It's involved in verbal and numerical information processing. It's rational, or bases its thoughts on reason and logic. Intellectual, analytical, or systematic. The University of Utah, neuroscientists from the University of Utah decided to test this theory if people could be more right-brained or more left-brained, and so they reviewed brain scans from 1,011 people whose age ranged from 7 years old to 29 years old to measure their functional lateralization. And to explain that a little more, it's the specific mental processes taking place in each side of the brain. So what's happening on the left side, what's happening on the right side. The lead author for the article, Jeff Anderson, stated that it's absolutely true that some brain functions occur in one or the other side of the brain. Language, for example, tends to be on the left side of the brain. Attention tends to be more on the right side. But people don't tend to have a strong left or right-sided brain network. And so there's not a dominant side to the brain, like you're not right-brained because your right brain is working harder, right hemisphere is working harder, and you're not left-brained because your left hemisphere is working harder. Benedict Carey from the textbook stated it in a very creative way. In his words, the left hemisphere was the intellectual, the wordsmith, and it could be severed from the right without any significant loss of IQ. The right side was the artist, the visuospatial expert, and the two worked together like co-pilots. So the brain, although it has two different halves, two different hemispheres, works together in almost every single task. They're like co-pilots together to perform one task. In conclusion, from researching this neuromyth, the theory of the right brain versus the left brain is a creative way to describe a person's personality type, more so than the actual higher functioning of one side of the brain or the other. And so when I say that I'm more of a right-brained person, I really mean that I'm a creative person, which using the right brain versus left brain even to describe personality is probably deceiving. So after researching this farther, it's probably a term that shouldn't be used because it just helps fuel this myth that either your right side of your brain works harder or the left side of your brain works harder, not that they're working together.